It starts the same way every night. At exactly 3 a.m., the dense mountain fog rolls in from nowhere, too thick, too fast, and far too deliberate. From the watchtower's observation deck, I can see it swallow the world whole, choking the trees and crawling up the steps of my lonely fire lookout like it's trying to get inside. And maybe it is. Because what lies inside that fog isn't natural. It watches. It waits. And last night, it spoke my name.
My name is Daniel Roy. I'm a forest fire spotter for the Cascade Range in Washington.
It's the kind of job people dream about when they want to disconnect from the modern world. Endless wilderness, no cell service, no neighbors. Just me, a small wooden cabin perched high above the pines, and a sweeping 360-degree view of what should be peaceful solitude. But lately, this place has felt anything but peaceful. It all began 3 weeks ago when I started my new rotation up here. I had taken over for the last lookout, a guy named Marcus Dillard, who left in a hurry. He didn't stick around to train me. Just tossed me the keys, muttered something about weird nights, and drove off like the forest had teeth. At first, everything was normal. I settled into the routine easily. Wake up with the sun, scan the horizon with the Osborne Firefinder, make notes, and check in via radio twice a day with the ranger station 30 miles south.
No signs of smoke, no bears prowling too close. Nothing out of the ordinary.
Then came the fog. The first night it appeared, I wrote it off as a coincidence. Weather rolls in fast at high elevation. I'd seen mist flood valleys before, turning the trees into silhouettes and the stars into faint ghosts. But this fog wasn't natural. I know that sounds insane, but I could feel it in my gut. It had weight. It had intent. I remember staring out into the thick white swirl and realizing there was no moonlight piercing it, no breeze to move it. It just hung there, dense and dead. I shivered and shut the door that night. But it came back the next night.
And the night after.
Always at 3 a.m. It never lasted more than an hour, but every time it returned, it pressed harder against the windows like it was probing for a weakness. It curled beneath the doorframe even though the seal was tight. I could smell it, damp earth and something metallic, like rust or blood. By the 7th night, I stopped sleeping altogether. I kept the lights on.
I locked the windows.
I started logging every strange occurrence, hoping it would give me some logical pattern I could cling to. Here's what I wrote down from that point forward. Night 7 * fog rolled in exactly at 3:01 a.m. Lights flickered for 12 seconds. Heard a faint knocking sound coming from the deck.
Stepped outside. No wonder. *** night 8 *** aired radio static without any on calling.
Static contained whispering, unintelligible but rhythmic. Could not record it. Tape malfunctioned. Night 9 * saw lights deep in the forest, too far for any hiker, and no access roads. Lights moved in a spiral before vanishing.
*** night 10 *** fog pressed hard against the glass.
I swear I saw handprints on the outside of the window.
5 fingers. Human-sized. Gone by sunrise.
It was becoming impossible to ignore. Something in that fog wanted me. I even called the station and requested an early replacement, but their answer was baffling. Your rotation just started, Daniel. We don't have you on schedule until next month. Hang tight. Next month.
I checked the calendar on the wall again.
August 6th. My logs confirmed it. But when I radioed back, the voice on the other end insisted it was still July 12th. That's when I knew the fog wasn't just playing tricks on my eyes. It was inside my reality now, warping it like heat rising from blacktop.
Last night, something changed.
Something entered the fog. It started the same way. The clock clicked over to 3 a.m., and the world outside turned white. I had taken to sleeping fully clothed, boots on, flashlight and knife in hand, like I was expecting a war I didn't understand. When the fog hit, I felt it even before I saw it. A pressure in my ears, like I'd suddenly dropped 10,000 feet in an airplane. Then, I heard the stairs creak. Not groan. Creak. The specific, deliberate sound of weight moving upward step by step.
I killed the lantern and crouched low by the wall.
My heart pounded so hard I could feel it in my throat. From my position, I had a perfect view of the stairwell through the window beside the door. The fog shifted. Something black moved within it. Slowly. Purposefully. It was a silhouette at first, humanoid, but the longer I stared, the more it changed. Its arms were too long, its neck slightly too bent, its gait uneven, like it was mimicking the motion of walking but didn't fully understand how legs worked. Then it spoke. Through the walls, over the sound of blood thundering in my ears, it said, clear as a bell, Daniel.
Asterisco.
Not whispered. Spoken. Calmly. Like someone calling to an old friend. I didn't respond.
It come closer.
Daniel. Come out.
The forest wants you. Asterisco.
I nearly dropped the knife. I crawled back from the wall and reached for the flare gun mounted near the observation window. I hadn't used it once up here, but my instincts screamed for fire, light, something. I aimed it down the steps. And I fired. The flare cut through the fog like a lance of red flame, illuminating the figure for just a moment, and in that moment, I saw it clearly. It wasn't human. Its face was a blur, like someone had smeared the features into static. Its fingers dragged along the railing, 5 on one hand, 7 on the other. Its torso pulsed like it breathed smoke. Then the flare blinked out, and the darkness surged in again. But the thing didn't climb the last step. It stopped. It looked at me through the window. And it smiled, though it had no mouth. Then it sank back into the fog. And the air felt like it released a breath it had been holding for hours. I stayed frozen until dawn. The fog burned away like it always does with the sun, and the view from my lookout was serene once more. Trees. Peaks.
Blue skies.
Like nothing had happened. But something had changed. I knew it. When I stepped outside to check for tracks, I found something waiting on the top step. A charred flare casing. And beneath it, carved into the wood with a rusted edge, 3 words. You are mocked.
Asterisco.
I don't know what that means yet. But tonight is coming. And I know it will return.
The fog doesn't just surround the lookout anymore.
It's trying to bring something through. And I fear, soon, it will succeed. It's a strange thing, what fear does to you when it's constant. It starts to dull your edges, like water against stone, wearing you down day by day.
You lose your sense of time. Your grip on reality softens.
And eventually, you begin to wonder if you ever really had control to begin with. That's where I am now. After the flare incident, I didn't sleep.
I sat up all night, clutching my knife and flashlight, listening to every creak and shift of the wind, waiting for another knock at the door or a whisper through the radio.
But nothing came. I wanted to believe it was over. I wanted to believe that whatever it was, whatever thing tried to come up those steps, had retreated for good. But in my gut, I knew better. The fog doesn't just come and go anymore. It lingers now, even in daylight. Wisps curl along the treetops in the distance, like smoke fingers trying to reach the tower. They never get too close during the day, but I can see them, waiting. This morning, I found something new. At first, I thought it was just my mind playing tricks again. I went out to sweep the deck, trying to stick to routine, and noticed small objects hanging from the railing. They weren't there the day before. There were 3 of them. Each one was a crude little figure. Dolls made from sticks and string, the kind you might find in some backwoods horror movie. One was hanging by the neck, the second by the arms, and the third had no head at all. They swung gently in the breeze like they had every right to be there.
The worst part.
They smelled like me.
Like sweat and wood smoke.
One of them was tied with a red thread from the fraying cuff of my jacket. I burned them. Used the last of my lighter fluid to make sure they turned to ash. But even as they burned, I could swear I heard laughter, quiet, cruel, and high-pitched, coming from the trees below.
Something is playing with me.
And it's getting bolder. Around noon, I tried to reach the ranger station again. My radio's been spotty, and the solar charger won't hold power like it used to, but I gave it a shot. Static. I tried the backup channel. More static. Then the voice came back. But it wasn't dispatch.
Asterisco, you are alone, Daniel. Asterisco.
I froze. I didn't push the button. I didn't say a word.
Asterisco, no one is coming. Asterisco. The line cut out.
I ripped the headset off and smashed the receiver against the desk hard enough to split the plastic casing. I didn't care. I needed the silence. But silence doesn't help anymore. That night, the fog returned earlier. It rolled in at 2:46 a.m. I know, because I had taken to keeping time with an old wind-up pocket watch, anything analog, anything the fog couldn't touch. It came in heavier this time, so thick I couldn't see the bottom of the stairwell. Even the radio antenna, just 10 feet above the lookout, disappeared completely into the gray. I turned off all the lights again.
Sat by the door. Held my breath.
Then came the humming. It started low, like someone blowing across a bottle's rim. Then it grew louder.
Richer. Like a full chorus humming in harmony.
Not a melody I recognized, but there was intention behind it. It wasn't random. It was a summoning. I backed away from the door and nearly tripped over the cot.
The fog pressed against the glass again.
It didn't knock this time. It throbbed, like it was alive.
I stood in the middle of the room, flare gangone, knife shaking in my hand, flashlight flickering like a dying star.
Then came the scratching.
Soft at first. From the underside of the floor. Something was beneath the lookout.
Something that had claws. I crouched low and put my ear to the floorboards.
A whisper slithered up through the grain.
Asterisk, let us in.
Asterisco.
I bolted upright. Ran to the trapdoor that led to the lower support platform. I opened it just enough to shine my flashlight down the access ladder.
What I saw still turns my stomach.
There were eyes. Hundreds of them. Lining the underside of the lookout like fungus.
Pale, lidless, weeping something black.
Each one stared directly into the beam of my light. Not blinking. Not moving.
Just watching.
Then they closed, all at once, like a curtain falling on a stage. And the humming stopped.
Silence fell again.
Thick and wrong. I sealed the trapdoor and pushed my desk over it. Not that it would help.
Not against whatever could grow eyes beneath a watchtower.
At 3:49 a.m., the fog began to retreat. At 3:52 a.m., I vomited into the trash bin from sheer panic. At 4 a.m., I passed out from exhaustion. I dreamed of them. Figures walking in a circle around the base of the tower. Chanting in that same harmonic hum.
Holding candles made of bone.
Faces hidden behind bark masks. Each time they passed the same spot, one of them would glance up.
And the one who glanced
had my face. When I woke up, the sun was rising. The fog was gone. But the air felt wrong. Too still. Too quiet. Even the birds had stopped chirping. I stepped outside to clear my head. And that's when I saw the footprints. Leading from the bottom of the stairs, all the way to my front door. Bare feet.
Human shape.
Except they weren't quite right. The toes were too long.
The heels too narrow.
And the spacing between steps, it didn't match any human stride I'd ever seen. I followed them around the perimeter. They circled the lookout. Twice. Then led back down the stairs, and vanished halfway down.
No drag marks.
No breaks in the pattern. Just gone. Like the thing that made them evaporated into the air. Or was never there to begin with. I tried to eat breakfast. Couldn't. Tried to read. Couldn't focus. I'm fraying. Coming apart at the seams. The lines between real and not real are blurring more each hour. And the tower, it's changing.
Small things at the first.
The calendar reset itself again, back to July 12th. I swear it's August 7th now, but every analog clock, every piece of paper says otherwise. The view from the north window is different too. The valley I usually see has shifted. Trees in the wrong places. A rock formation that wasn't there before.
A narrow trail winding between the pines where never existed.
I used the binoculars to check it out. That trail ends at a clearing. In the middle of that clearing is a stone circle.
Moss-covered. Old.
And standing in the center of it is me. Or something wearing my skin. It looks up toward the tower. And it waves. I dropped the binoculars.
Ran back inside.
I don't know how much longer I can take this. Something is wearing reality like a costume. And I'm the only one up here to witness it come apart. I tried one more thing before nightfall. A desperate move, but I had to try something. I climbed down to the forest myself, during the daylight, while I still felt brave. I went to the base of the tower, carried a can of red paint from the emergency supply crate.
And he drew a massive circle around the lookout. 6 feet wide. Unbroken.
With strange symbols I copied from the ranger station's old field guide on local tribal markings, most of them used to ward off spirits and curses. It took me 2 hours. But when I finished, I felt something shift in the air. Like something angry had just been locked out. The trees groaned. Not swayed. Groaned. As if in protest. I ran back up to the lookout and slammed the door behind me.
The sun is setting now.
The fog will be here again soon. Earlier, I found something new inside the tower.
Under my pillow.
A tooth. Not mine. Not human. And carved into the enamel was a single word.
Asterisco asterisco tomorrow. Asterisco asterisco.
I don't know what happens tomorrow. But I don't think I'll be alive to see it. When night came, it didn't feel like night. It felt like a curtain had been drawn across the world. The stars didn't show.
The moon never rose. Just an endless black pressing down on everything, squeezing the forest like a fist.
There was no transition. 1 minute the sky was tinged orange and purple. The next, it was gone. And then the fog came.
Asterisco asterisco 2, 33a.m. Asterisco asterisco.
Earlier than ever. I stood by the window, frozen, heart trying to punch through my ribs as I watched it flood the base of the tower like rising water. My painted circle, the protective ring of tribal glyphs I'd scrawled with shaking hands, it held for the first few minutes. The fog curled around it, recoiling like smoke against glass. But then it began probing. Long tendrils slid across the paint, tapping it, tasting it. The fog knew I had tried to stop it. And it didn't like that. I backed away from the window. The radio hissed to life behind me, though I had smashed it days ago. Tomorrow, said the voice. Static laced its every syllable.
Asterisco il see what waits in the clearing. Asterisco. Then silence again.
Not even crickets now. Just the low thrum of pressure in my ears and the ticking of the analog watch in my pocket.
Asterisco asterisco 2, 54a.m. Asterisco asterisco. 70 minutes to the hour.
I sat down in the corner, gripping the knife in one hand and my flashlight in the other. But the batteries were nearly dead. I shook it. It flickered, faded, died. Then came the sound I feared the most.
The asterisco stares asterisco.
This time, not slow or cautious.
No.
This time the thing climbed fast, like a predator. Thud, thud, thud. Wood creaking with each step, angry and full of intent.
I rose, heart screaming, breath catching in my throat. Then, asterisco silence asterisco.
It had stopped just outside the door. I raised the knife, but my hand was shaking too badly to aim straight. A soft, rhythmic tap-tap-tap began against the wood.
Not knocking.
Just tapping.
He whispered, go away.
No response. Another tap.
Then, without warning, asterisco asterisco a note slid under the door asterisco asterisco.
A crumpled, torn piece of paper. Yellowed.
Damp.
I stared at it like it might bite me. Eventually, I picked it up. There were only 3 words written on it, in messy, childish scrawl. Open the trapdoor.
Asterisco asterisco.
My legs turned to ice. That trapdoor, the one that led to the storage platform beneath the tower, had been silent for nearly a day. The last time I'd opened it, I saw eyes.
Pale, weeping eyes embedded in the wood. And now something wanted me to go back down there.
I should have burned the whole place down and run for the tree-line. But some part of me, maybe curiosity, maybe desperation, needed to know. I slid the desk aside and opened the trapdoor. This time, there were stairs. Where the metal ladder used to be, there was now a steep staircase made of warped wood and sinew. It stretched down into darkness that shouldn't exist. The platform beneath the lookout was only 10 feet below. I'd been down there. I knew its size. But this staircase went much farther. It descended like a spiral, disappearing into thick, oozing fog. I shouldn't have gone down. God help me, I shouldn't have. But I did. I stepped onto the first stair. It groaned under my weight like a thing in pain. I continued downward, one hand on the wall for balance, the other still gripping the useless flashlight like a lifeline. With each step, the air grew colder. Heavier. The walls began to close in, twisted roots forming a tunnel of pulsing bark and rot. My fingers brushed over something soft. Asterisk asterisk fur asterisk asterisk.
Asterisco asterisco flesh asterisco asterisco.
I didn't check. Then, just as I was sure I'd been descending for far too long, I emerged into a clearing.
Nota asterisco room asterisco. Asterisco asterisco clearing asterisco asterisco. Beneath my fire lookout.
Bathed in moonlight, though I hadn't seen the moon in days. Trees circled the space like sentinels. And in the center stood a stone altar, old and cracked, covered in moss. And on top of that altar was Marcus Dillard.
The last fire lookout.
Naked.
Eyes gouged out.
His chest had been split open and filled with pine cones, black feathers, and a single beating heart that was not his. It pulsed slowly, rhythmically, as if it belonged to something far larger than a man. I couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. Something shifted behind the trees. Figures. Dozens of them. Tall, spindly shadows with elongated limbs and heads like twisted branches. Their eyes glowed white, not with light, but with memory. With hunger. And then they spoke, in unison. Asterisk, he refused the pact. You will not.
Asterisco.
I stumbled backward. Tried to run. But the staircase behind me was gone. In its place, more trees. More fog. I turned back, and now they were closer.
Circling me.
Still speaking as one, their voices like wind through dead leaves. Asterisk, every watcher must choose.
The forest barns or the sulfids. Asterisco.
What are you talking about? I screamed. They didn't answer. Instead, they parted. And from the tree-lean stepped a copy of me.
An exact replica. Same flannel.
Same boots.
Same scar above my eyebrow.
It smiled with lips too wide and eyes too black. Then it walked calmly up to the altar. It reached down and pulled something from Marcus's chest cavity. A book.
Old. Bound in Ide.
It handed it to me. I didn't take it. It forced it into my hands.
The moment Uno touched it, my head filled with voices, memories, screams, fire, ash. I saw the forest burning.
I saw other lookouts, centuries ago, screaming from towers as fog swallowed the land. And one sentence echoed through it all. Asterisk, the fire must be fed.
Asterisco.
When I opened my eyes, I was back in my lookout. Sitting at the desk. The trapdoor closed beneath me.
The book still in my lap.
I jumped up, threw it across the room. It landed with a thud. Pages fluttered.
I scrambled to the door.
Threw it open. The fog was gone. It was dawn. Birds were singing. Everything looked normal. Except it wasn't. There were 3 suns in the sky. One where it should be. 2 smaller ones, orbiting the first like parasites. I slammed the door shut and backed away.
I'm not on Earth anymore.
Or maybe Earth isn't Earth anymore.
The book lies in the corner. I can feel it watching me.
Tonight is August 8th, but the calendar still says July 12th. And my analog watch. It just stopped ticking. Exactly at 3 a.m. I haven't slept since the night I went beneath the tower. The book still sits in the corner of the room. I haven't touched it since that moment, since it was forced into my hands by the thing that wore my face. But I can feel it. Breathing.
Throbbing. The way something old and alive breathes without lungs, deep and slow like it's pulling there from other worlds.
I've spent the last day trying to convince myself I imagined it all. The altar. The corpse.
The creatures. The third sun.
But every time I look out the window, I'm reminded that this is no hallucination. The sky never quite returns to blue. The shadows are wrong. They curve where they shouldn't, and stretch toward the tower even at noon. The wind carries whispers now, barely audible but constant.
If I focus too long, I start to hear my name.
I start to hear pleading. This morning, I took out the binoculars and scanned the forest.
The stone clearing was gone.
The strange path that led to it, gone. In its place was a blackened patch of ground. Burned. Like something scorched it from below. But I did see something else.
A tower.
Identical to mine. About 4 miles west. I've never seen another lookout this close. There's no record of it in the ranger logs. No mention of it on the map. It shouldn't exist. Yet there it was. And in its highest window, I saw a figure. Waving. At me. The same motion I saw in the clearing, the copy of myself, smiling, waving. But this time, the face was different. It wore a charred ranger's hat. Its mouth stretched too wide. And the longer I stared, the more I realized it wasn't waving hello. It was beckoning. Inviting me. To come see. To come understand. I dropped the binoculars and backed away. Whatever's going on, it's spreading. There's a rot infecting this forest, twisting its rules, rewriting the ground I walk on, the sky I look up to. And I fear it's not just staying here.
It wants asterisco out asterisco.
Around 5 p.m., the book opened on its own. I swear to God, I didn't touch it. Pages flipped in a violent flutter until it landed on a 2-page spread inked in crimson. There were hand-drawn diagrams, circles, trees, eyes. The page smelled of decay, like old leaves and dried blood. At the bottom, written in neat, deliberate script.
Asterisco asterisco to break the binding, burn the host, feed the fog. Asterisco asterisco.
I don't know what that means. But I have a feeling I'm the host. And the fog. The fog is always hungry. I wanted to throw the book from the tower, but I couldn't move. It wouldn't let me. I tried lifting it again with a towel wrapped around my hand.
The moment Uno touched it, he blacked out.
When I came to, it was dark. And fog had already filled the tower. Not outside. Inside.
Thick, choking white swirled through the rafters, hugging the ceiling, slithering along the floor.
I couldn't see my own boots. I stumbled backward into the desk. The windows were still closed. The door was still locked. But the fog was already in. A voice whispered directly into my ear.
Asterisco, you are the fire. Asterisco.
I screamed.
Swung my knife fatinating.
The blade passed through smoke and silence. The fog shifted. And something stepped out of it.
Not a creature this time. A woman.
Or at least, what was once a woman.
She wore a scorched forest service uniform.
Her skin was gray and cracked, like stone.
Eyes black and shining.
Her mouth opened in a twitching grin far too wide for her face. Marcus didn't tell you, she rasped, voice layered like a dozen people speaking at once. He broke the pact. That's why they took him. I couldn't speak. I couldn't move. She circled me like a shark. There must always be a watcher.
Always a guardian. Someone to feed the fog.
To keep it hungry, but not full. What happens if it gets full? I finally managed to whisper. She stopped, tilted her head. Then it spreads. She placed her cold, dead hand on my chest. You've already been chosen, Daniel. It knew your name before you ever stepped foot in this tower. Why me? Because you looked up. You watched. Suddenly, the fog rushed back toward her. It consumed her. In an instant, she was gone.
And the lookout was empty again.
I collapsed to the floor, gasping for air. The book was back in my lap. Opened to a new page.
There, scrawled in blood.
3 nights remain. Choose, or the fire chooses for you.
Asterisco asterisco.
I stayed awake all night, afraid of what sleep might bring.
The dreams are worse now. I see the world burning.
Cities swallowed by mist. People with empty sockets stumbling through ash and fog. Towers like mine sprouting from the ground like tombstones, each one watching a different corner of a dying planet. And always, asterisk asterisk that song asterisk asterisk. The humming.
Low and mournful. Calling for me.
When the sun rose, if you could call that weak light a sun, I made a decision.
If I'm marked. If I'm trapped here.
Then I need to understand what I'm up against. I packed a bag with essentials, a flare, a compass, even if the directions feel warped, a canteen, a fire starter, and yes, the book. I'm going to that second tower. The one that shouldn't exist. I need to know what's inside it. What it wants me to see.
Trattino trattino. Asterisco asterisco 8, 11, appunto M, asterisco asterisco. Leaving the lookout. Fog still lingers around the tree line. Air feels thick. Asterisco asterisco 9, 32 appunto M, asterisco asterisco.
Trail is wrong. Ground is too soft.
Compass spinning.
Birds circling above are the same ones from 2 hours ago. I think time is folding in on itself here.
Asterisco asterisco 11, 45 appunto M, asterisco asterisco. Found a dead elk.
No wounds.
Eyes missing.
Tongue removed. Something placed a crown of twigs on its head. Like an offering. 12:30 p.m. I see the tower. Closer now. It's rotted. Slanted.
Covered in vines.
But it's identical to mine in design.
I'm standing at the base now. Steps creak under my weight.
Fog is thick even in daylight. There's a smell here.
Sweet rot. Like honey poured over a corpse.
1:00 p.m. I opened the door.
Inside is asterisco me asterisco. Another version.
Or what's left of one. Hung by the neck from a chain bolted into the ceiling. Its face is mine. But the eyes are hollowed out.
Mouth sewn shut with pine needles. It wears my jacket.
Clutched in its hand is a note.
Asterisco asterisco welcome back. Asterisco asterisco. I should turn around.
But I can't. Because this tower.
This asterisco asterisco plus asterisco asterisco.
It's not just watching me. It's part of me. And something deep in the fog is waiting. Smiling. Because it knows I'm almost ready to choose. The silence after the voices stopped was worse than any sound. It wrapped around me like a shroud, thick and suffocating, pressing in from every direction. The fog was still out there, watching.
I knew it now.
It wasn't just some weather anomaly or natural phenomenon. It was alive. It had intent. It was feeding off something. Maybe fear, maybe time, maybe me. I had made it through 4 nights. Barely. But something inside me had shifted. I wasn't the same man who first climbed this tower. And tonight, I was going to find out why I'd been chosen, or if there was any way out at all. The journal lay open on the desk, its final page smeared with blood that wasn't mine. I had read it over and over again, the final entry etched into my brain like a curse. Asterisk, if you see the child, it's already too late.
Asterisco.
And now I'd seen him, twice. That hollow-eyed boy who moved through fog like a shadow. His voice had called to me last night, soft and melodic like a broken music box.
Asterisco come down, it's better below, asterisco. Identidared.
But something told me that tonight, staying up here wouldn't help either.
Trattino trattino. The clock struck asterisco asterisco 2, 45 am asterisco asterisco.
I watched the red digital numbers flip silently, each one dragging me closer to the hour I dreaded. There was something different about the air. A pressure.
Allo frequency uno cold feel my teeth.
The fog hadn't arrived yet, but I could smell it, metallic and wet like an open grave. I armed myself with what little I had, a flare gun, a flashlight with dying batteries, and a hunting knife left behind by the last ranger, Gale. I hadn't found her body.
Only fragments.
Pieces too clean to be the work of any animal. I should have called for help days ago. But the radio, dead. The phone, static. The backup generator had kicked in just long enough to blink out one final message across the tower's screen before dying again.
Asterisco asterisco don't trust the FOG. Asterisco asterisco.
But the fog wasn't what I feared most anymore. It was what moved within it.
Trattino trattino. Asterisco asterisco 3, 00 am. Asterisco asterisco.
It rolled in faster than ever before.
Not slowly, like fingers creeping across the forest floor.
No. This time it slammed into the tower like a tidal wave, swallowing the lookout whole in a matter of seconds. Visibility dropped to nothing. The world turned white and featureless. The wind didn't blow. The air didn't stir. It was like the entire mountain had been dropped into a snow globe, and I was the only one left alive inside. But I wasn't alone. The whispers started instantly. No build-up. No warning. Just a sudden rush of voices crashing into my head from every direction, all speaking at once in languages I didn't recognize, except one.
My name. Over and over.
Evan.
Asterisco Evan. Come out. Asterisco. Asterisco we miss you. Evan. Asterisco.
I stumbled back from the window, covering my ears. It didn't help.
The voices weren't coming from outside.
They were inside me, burrowing, crawling through my mind like worms. And then I saw him again. The boy.
Standing just outside the tower, barely visible in the mist.
Still. Silent. Watching. His face was clearer this time. Pale skin stretched too tight across bone. Eyes that were just holes, deep, black sockets that seemed to pull the fog into them. But the worst part. His smile. It didn't reach his eyes. It stretched too wide, too slow, like his skin was remembering how to move. And then, he raised his hand and pointed. Not at me.
A ti de asterisco dor asterisco. Trattino trattino.
My body moved before my brain caught up. I grabbed the flare gun and aimed it at the boy through the window. Come any closer and I swear I'll shoot. No response. Just that same smile. I fired. The flare exploded in a burst of red fire, momentarily burning away the fog. The boy vanished, but not like he ran. He simply wasn't there anymore. For a few seconds, the mist retreated, the voices dulled. But something rose in its place, something worse. A sound.
Like wood creaking. No, asterisco not wood asterisco.
The stairs. Something was climbing up the tower. Slow.
Rhythmic.
Heavy.
Asterisco tank, asterisco.
Thunk, thunk. Each footstep closer than the last. I aimed the flare gun again, backing up until my spine hit the wall. The door rattled.
Then, asterisco silence, asterisco. My breath caught in my throat. And then, a whisper. Asterisco behind you. Asterisco.
I spun, just as the window behind me shattered inward, the glass slicing my arm. Cold air rushed in, and with it came a figure, tall, hunched, its limbs too long, its joints bending the wrong way. It wasn't the boy. This thing was older. Its skin was stretched leather, its face covered in stitched-together scraps like a patchwork mask. Where its eyes should have been, there were just two pulsing red lights, glowing from deep within its skull. And it was smiling too. I didn't scream. I couldn't. I fired the last flare directly into its chest. The creature howled, a high-pitched screech that shook the tower. It collapsed, writhing, and burst into a thick black smoke that the fog absorbed like it was feeding. But the footsteps on the stairs didn't stop. More were coming.
Trattino trattino.
I knew then that staying put would mean death. Or worse, asterisk becoming like them. Asterisk. I grabbed the journal, shoved it into my jacket, and kicked open the trapdoor to the roof.
The fog hit me in the face, burning cold.
It was like stepping into another world, weightless, formless, endless. I moved blind, climbing the tower's antenna ladder until I was standing at the absolute top. My flashlight flickered and died. And then I saw it. Above me.
Something massive, drifting in the sky.
A shape. An eye. No, not an eye. A hole. A rent in the sky that looked down with unfeeling void. The fog wasn't from the forest. It was from there. A breach.
A tear between worlds.
And every night at 3 a.m., it opened to feed. I felt my sanity teetering at the edge of that revelation. I could see things moving within the fog now.
Not creatures. Asterisco souls. Asterisco trapped.
Twisting.
Screaming without sound.
Ripped from reality and devoured. And I was next. Unless I jumped.
Trattino trattino. The thought it me with violent clarity.
What if the only way to escape was to fall? The journal had mentioned it, buried in a side note. Asterisk, I leapt. I fell. And I woke up, in the past. Or maybe another version of this place.
Asterisco. Maybe that's what it wanted.
Maybe that was the trap. Or maybe it was the only way out.
The fog was climbing the tower, slithering up the walls like a living thing.
I could feel it brushing against my boots, whispering, promising things.
A voice like my mother's.
My brother's. My own. Asterisk, you don't have to run anymore.
Asterisco. Asterisco, just let go. Asterisco.
I took one last look down. Then I jumped.
Trattino, trattino.
When I opened my eyes, I wasn't dead. I was lying on the forest floor.
The sun was rising.
Birdsong filled the air. No fog.
No tower.
Just trees. Warmth. Light. I staggered to my feet, disoriented. My body felt whole. No cuts. No bruises.
Just the journal, still clutched in my hand.
I flipped to the last page. It had changed. There was a new entry, written in my own handwriting.
Asterisco, the fog never left.
It only hides in daylight. It watches from behind the trees.
Waiting for the next night.
The next 3 a.m. The next fire lookout.
Asterisco.
And below that, you've seen too much. Tell them. Warn them. Before it's your turn again.
Asterisco, asterisco.
I dropped the journal. Because I finally understood. There was no escape.
The fog follows. Trattino, trattino.
I never went back to the tower. I never reported it. Who would believe me? The official records say it burned down from faulty wiring. No mention of disappearances. No mention of Gale, or the boy, or the thing with stitched skin. But I know what I saw. I moved to the city. Took a desk job.
Avoided the woods.
Avoided fog. But it still finds me. Some mornings, I wake up at 3 a.m., heart pounding, and the windows covered in condensation, asterisk from the inside, asterisk. Sometimes, I think I hear footsteps.
One day soon, it'll be my turn again.
And next time, I don't think I'll wake up. So if you're ever offered a post at a lonely fire lookout,
Asterisco, asterisco, don't take it, asterisco, asterisco.
And if you do,
Asterisco, asterisco, never stay past 3 a.m. Asterisco, asterisco.